How the fuck am I supposed to get anything from this? When was the last time you gave a second thought to Dot Hack Sign? 2004? Did you ever give a shit? I didn't until about last year when I was feeling particularly pretentious one day. I was at my friend's house smoking a bowl of Dirt Reggie when it dawned on me that no one ever gave this series a chance. I mean, yeah, it was boring, its pacing was shit, its character models fucked up from time to time, and the studio that made it wasn't exactly known for being on the cutting edge of anime back in the day. But you know what? There are plenty of shitty anime that I forget a week after I watch it. But Dot Hack was different. So I read up on the backstory, played the games, and found what became an obsession. I'm not gonna pretend that this show was good. I'm not even gonna say that the audience was wrong to forget about it.
I just want to prove that someone can get something out of it and that it wasn't a complete waste of time.
In this analysis, I've decided to go into as much depth as I can. I feel that a cursory glance at Sign both wouldn't do it justice,
and oversimplifies the narrative that fascinated me about this show in the first place.
also, I'm a masochist who hates myself, which neither is the fault of the audience at all. This is by no means a perfect show, and one of its failings is its hubris in assuming that a multimedia project spanning 3 different mediums would be digestible to a general audience, or even a niche audience as was the anime community in 2003. However, before we get into it, I'm going to set up a few ground rules. 1. Death of the author is in full effect. I'm going to assume as much as I want and imply as much context to the sources that I feel are necessary. If it feels like I'm reaching or overanalyzing, just assume that my answer is, yep. Though it may seem like it, this is not a plot summary of Dot Hack Sign. It's an autopsy! The horse is already dead, and I want to know what killed it. Because this is a multimedia project, I'm going to give them what they want, and assume that all parts of the series are part of the text. The games, the OVAs, the manga, fucking everything. I'm going to give them as much chances as I humanly can to make me like this show. Alright, so let's get started. Hit the music, Johnny! I said, hit the music, Johnny! Oh, I forgot. Johnny died of autoerotic asphyxiation. Episode 1. Roleplay. We start off with some establishing shots of the world. The music combined with the environment gives the world an unreal, barren feeling, but also mysterious. Real quick shoutouts to Yuki Kajira for this amazing soundtrack, which I'm sure most would agree is the best part of the show. Tsukasa wakes up in a pit and doesn't seem to remember how he got there, when suddenly Mimiru the Heavy Blade shows up. She is at first impressed with Tsukasa because he is deep in what could possibly be a hard dungeon alone as a Wave Master, who we assume using context is not a class that solos dungeons. Strangely enough, Tsukasa sees himself as a loner, yet chose a class that cannot do anything without help from a party of friends. Specifically, we see later in the series that other Wave Masters are mostly support classes who use shields and heal, while also dealing out sustained DPS. However, they're also squishy and can't fight hand to hand or tank damage. Now I ask you, do I actually give a shit about what the specifics of that system is? No. If you really want to know how all the classes work, go play the games. But in the anime, I only care about what the class says about the character. Tsukasa hates people, but plays support. It's a contradiction. This is the first example of how Sign gives you clues into the mechanics of the game and the inner workings of the characters without directly expositing why things are the way they are. We see in both Log Horizon and Seo that they spend a decent amount of time explaining the mechanics of the game. Now, a lot of people like this aspect because it gives the video game world a sense of credibility, and you're all a bunch of fucking nerds. However, I feel the mechanics of these can either be seamlessly woven into the environment, which is something Seo did that wasn't terrible, or it can be relatively ignored and still pass for a video game. Because in the end, the game itself is irrelevant. The MMO is only a vehicle to talk about other social aspects. You aren't going to personally play Sword Art Online or Elder Tale. Continuing, we see the first authority figures in Sign. The Crimson Knights. They're a volunteer group of players who've seen fit to take up the mantle of finding cheaters and policing PKers in the world. We'll learn more about them later. They asked Tsukasa about a cat player that they heard rumors about. They explained that he'd been seen with a cat a few days ago and they wanted information. Tsukasa vaguely remembers but chooses not to answer because fuck the police and pieces the fuck out. Once again, we establish the mechanics of the game with gating out, and we see that the world has a society that creates their own rules and self-polices even though this is a video game. And usually that kind of thing would be left to an admin. They sound like full-blown cops and less like a group of players. Tsukasa and Mimiru arrive in what we learn is a server city. Now some of this is vaguely explained later, but the way the game works is you log in through the Ultimate OS and you're dropped at a chaos gate at whatever server you choose to go to. In order to go out to the field, you have to choose from a list of 3 words that creates the field that you go to. Basically, the world is huge and possibly infinite. None of this matters to the story at hand, but getting these mechanics out of the way will help us later. Just know that normally you'll always have to come back to the main server to log out or you'll lose your progress. So Mimiru is warning Tsukasa about the Crimson Knights. They'll make your life hell if you cross them, and this is the first time we get a glimpse of how Tsukasa sees the world. He says he'll just stay offline for a few days. He doesn't quite take this place as seriously as real life, and why the fuck should he? He doesn't seem to want to make friends with how he's ignoring Mimiru and disrespecting the Crimson Knights. He says simply that everyone has their own way of playing the game. He tries to log out, but fails, and leaves for another field instead. We get a few scenes with him in the field with a Grunty interacting with some of the world's mechanics, specifically the mist springs in which we see in the video games. Did you lose a golden axe? Or a silver axe? I don't know why he turned Cockney. After getting either annoyed or just to do it, he tries to attack it to no avail. He seems to genuinely enjoy the world and exploring, which is a decent part of his character. He interacts with the environment in a very real way, but generally doesn't like people very much. It's almost as if he wants the world to himself and people are just another mechanic of that world, albeit annoying. Speaking of people, we get to meet one of my favorite characters in the show, Bear, another Blade Master. He empathizes with Tsukasa, saying he also does that when he's feeling down. If there's one thing to know about Bear is that he's a natural leader and nurturer. He works with new players and he's not afraid to ask people if they need help. Almost like a Papa Bear. Huh. Well, he offers to help Tsukasa and gets shut down immediately. We'll see that a lot. Again, Tsukasa enjoys the world but not the people, no matter how nice. Oh, and fucking Beatsy's there. Now, are you ready for the best meme of the entire fucking show? This fucking boat! We will see these jerks talking on this boat almost every episode with the same damn music. I don't find it that annoying, but it makes me chuckle every time I see it. Like, is this her fucking boat? Is this a boat that's just floating by? What if someone's already on it? Does she kick them the fuck off? Is she always hogging it? What if I want to take my cyber girlfriend on a gondola ride? What gives? Ah, fuck it. First things first, a shout out to Lord Orca, who, if we did our homework, we know is a strong player and a friend of Kites, the protagonist of the Dot Hack games. They also mention Balmung of the Azure Sky, another legendary player we see more of in the games. They're both investigating stranger occurrences in the world, which brings us to the characters on said boat, Silver Knight and Subaru, the leader of the Crimson Knights. We don't learn much in this scene about her, but what we do learn is that Silver Knight, a player who lives in modern Japan, is kneeling to her like she's a queen. We must always remember this fact. These guys are not obligated to act in any certain way. These are hardcore role players, people. These guys are the real OG. While cruising, she sees Tsukasa hanging out on the docks, and he's also spotted by Silver Knight, who had wanted to keep tabs on him. Tsukasa runs away and Silver Knight says, "It's not easy to act in the name of justice." He is full-blown engulfed in his RP, and it is an interesting concept that not many other MMO anime go into, or if they do, they don't fully explore it. So after this, we get the big reveal of Tsukasa's major conflict. He cannot log out of the game. Now, this is by no means an original idea. In fact, not being able to willingly leave an MMO is essentially the major plot point of most MMO anime following this one, including the infamous Sale. However, the way it happens in Sign is a bit different. We'll get more into it later because the effects of being trapped in the world on Tsukasa is a major point of interest in these essays, and we're still only halfway through the first episode. Warning. I am about to look deep into this conversation. Feel free to click out, jerk off, unsub, or call me a faggot. I understand. He asks her if she's able to log out. She tells him that she's been able to log out. This game has singled him out for some reason. And that would be a scary prospect for anyone. In fact, we actually see it physically affect him here. But again, he doesn't say it. We fucking see it. We see that oh shit moment without him having to say a damn thing. She follows him and questions him, like maybe the Crimson Knights pulled strings with the admins, or maybe he cheated. He suspects that this is a possibility, seeing as he does have amnesia and can't remember the events that brought him under suspicion in the first place. She says the simplest answer, which is just to turn off the computer. And that's when he realizes it. Or maybe he's known this entire time. He is not at a computer right now. He can't even feel his real body. He starts freaking the fuck out and tells Mimaru to fuck off. She obviously gets mad because she has no idea what's going on and just assumes he's spurging out. Also, side note about Mimaru's character here, she has a great knack for taking complex ideas and simplifying them to common sense. She's good like that. I, however, am the opposite. So she lectures him and tells him that the real world and the virtual world are the same thing, and manners are the same way. Hey, Tsukasa, you know that game you play you used to avoid people? You can't avoid people anymore because now the game is real fucking life. Or at least that's what Tsukasa heard. She's just telling him not to be a jerk. So Tsukasa doubles down like a boss and tells her to leave him the fuck alone, which is always his safety strat. When in doubt, run away and be alone. She agrees to leave him alone, and then...
じゃあ、もう僕に付きまとわないでくれるよね。僕も見かけても無視する。
Let me be clear. This is a what the fuck moment. I wouldn't come off as too preachy when I say this, but it's important to understand that a video game, a product, just hurts someone. Tsukasa can feel pain in the world. That's why even Mimaru double-take for a second there, even though her logic took over and decided that it was impossible that a slap actually fucking hurt him because this is a video game and video games do not hurt people. This is one of my favorite scenes. To even come close to an equivalent in Log Horizon, you can't find one in Seo, you'd have to bring up some of the best scenes in the show, like the first time people tasted food, or the establishment of their government. To find a scene that captures such raw emotion in Log Horizon, you have to go to the best that it has to offer. This is episode fucking 1, and Tsukasa just got slapped. And it hurt. The ramifications of this change everything. Because while in Seo and Log Horizon there were stakes like death in the former and losing memories in the latter, you really didn't get the feeling that you could feel pain. Seo more just because the poor writing, acting, animation could not convey pain, and wasn't trying to. Sign needs you to understand that Tsukasa is in pain, so we get everything. The tears in his eyes, the hand on his cheek, the hurt in his voice, and the question on his mind. Why? Which can mean many things in this context. Why did that hurt? Why am I trapped here? Why did she slap me? And if you watch more, you slowly start to understand that Tsukasa came to the world to escape from similar pain. He just got slapped in a place that he was promised wasn't going to hurt him, and is possibly the only place that he could avoid similar pain. But we'll get to that in another time. Shout out to Yuki Kajira for this amazing song as well. Holy shit.
僕は端末の前にはいない。僕にはリセットする端末がない。
Tsukasa goes back to where he was to try and remember what happened to him. He remembers opening the chest in front of him and something happens to him, but he doesn't know what. Suddenly, a cat avatar appears in front of him. The cat's name is Maka. He directs him to the chest and signs for him to open it. In it, he sees a tablet and touches it. It glows and a voice talks to him in his head. It tells him to walk with her, and she will protect him. He doesn't quite understand and tries to leave the dungeon. Silver Knight blocks his path. The Knight of Justice is here, and he has set up a barrier to block Sprite Ocarinas, another item from the games with the same function. Now, guys, do not get used to it. You may have heard a rumor, or even seen it for yourself when you originally watched this on Toonami, that this show is all exposition and no action. I'm here to tell you that you're completely fucking right. Dot Hack Sign is a frugal beast and does not give you action scenes very often, and when they do, they are not usually as fun as this. This one is pretty cool. Also, it's one of the few moments Tsukasa gets to act cool. Silver Knight asks him why he's running from the law, and Tsukasa simply says that it was fun, and gives the knight a sly grin. That being said, Tsukasa is a wave master, and not a very strong one at that. Certainly not stronger than Silver Knight. Also, let's remember that Tsukasa is fully in the world. We learn later that players use controllers to do most of the character movement. Tsukasa not only feels pain, but has to rely on his own reflexes to fight, and wouldn't you know it, gets his ass handed to him. And then, the disembodied voice makes good on her promise, and the Guardian comes out. It's a dumbbell-shaped monster with infinite HP, and kills Silver Knight in one hit. Even worse, the Guardian data drains Silver Knight. A quick explanation of data draining: it's an ability given to Kite in the video games where he can alter the data and specifically remove virus cores from his opponents, leaving them at level 1. We'll explain more about it later, but basically when it's used on a person, they fall into a coma, which is effectively the core conflict in the entire Dot Hack series. We learn later that Silver Knight likewise has fallen unconscious after this fight, but only temporarily, not like in the games where Orca goes full-blown coma for a long period of time. That is because the bracelet inside the Guardian is not a fully powered one like the one Kite has or the phases have in the games. Good thing for Silver Knight too. Tsukasa remembers that the voice told him that she would protect him, which causes him to smile. He has regained a semblance of control, and possibly more importantly, someone who cares about him. Tsukasa goes back to the docks, triumphant, and decides that maybe getting trapped in the world isn't such a bad thing. After all, then I don't have to return to that ludicrous world. Which cements the idea that whatever world he's in now, to him, it's certainly better than what he left behind. Yep, his real body has fallen into a coma. And that begs a lot of questions, but this has obviously gone on way too fucking long. That was episode 1. I would like to state that I'm obviously a very passionate fan, and maybe the author didn't intend all of what I'm assuming. However, that is what I'm getting from this show, and I feel it's incredibly fascinating. Dot Hack brings up so many complex subjects that other shows merely skimp on for fear of alienating their audience, and let me be clear, they were probably right in doing so. More on that later. I plan on going through every episode, and this one in particular had a lot. I'll try to pick up the pace in later videos, but I wanted to give my all for this one.
Next will be episode 2, Guardian. And in between I'm going to have a more general analysis of one of the major themes of the Dot Hack franchise in general. I also plan to expand out of Dot Hack, but that probably won't be for a bit. Thanks for watching, and if you liked what you saw, maybe give me a tip on my Patreon so I can feed my cat. I'll see you in the next one.